Hello, everyone. I am Professor Noel, and welcome to the Road to Graduation and Greatness. We are back with another special episode that's being recorded in Poznań, Poland. Okay, every episode except for the last one was recorded in the United States of America, but I'm actually here in Poland giving a series of presentations at Poznań University of Technology on communications, on persuasion, on building rapport, et cetera, et cetera. I just had a conversation with some graduate students, and I actually have a conversation with doctoral students in a few days. But I'm actually here with Julia. Yeah. She was in the most recent presentation on persuasion. And before we jump into the conversation for this podcast, I'm just curious to know, how was your experience in my presentation?
So, not to brag, it was amazing, basically. Mm-hmm. I learned, there were a few things I already knew, but you have the mentality that, I know this already. I don't have to know this stuff anymore. That's not true. Mm-hmm. Like, you rehearsed it for me and you gave me practical examples. I learned, oh my God, I thought I knew already, like most of the things. I didn't. Mm-hmm. Of course I didn't. And I learned new stuff. I did start taking notes.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
that
you
was
did.
me. That was me on my phone.
Yes, I
did.
Noticed.
I didn't want to be an old person and take the paper and go on a whole desk. So I did it on my phone. Yeah. And I have it because memory. Mm-hmm. But still, I very much enjoyed it, and I think it is and it was very necessary to take place here. And I'm very grateful that you came here and you gave this talk. And I'm very grateful that I took the decision to come here and participate. It was pure fun.
Hey, I appreciate it, Julia. It really means a lot because as I was preparing for the presentation, I'm the type of person, because I've been speaking for over a decade now. Yeah. And sometimes when you have so much experience, you get prideful and you start to prepare less. And that's what I've been turning into, if I'm to be honest. Because you get so good at something, sometimes you're like, I don't need to prepare. But this presentation, because I knew I traveled 27 hours to get here, and I was speaking to a group of people that I've never spoken to before. Like, I only have one Polish friend in the US, and I'm about to speak to a lot of students that, I don't really know what the experience would be like. I put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of preparation in order to make this day possible. And so it really warms my heart that everyone had a good experience and they learned something. And I really appreciate you coming after the talk and us having a conversation. And it's been very meaningful to me. So thank you, Julia, for this. And so one more thing before we jump into the conversation. Sure. I was so surprised when I went around the room and I asked people, what are you passionate about? And then someone said money. And when I hear money, the very first thing that comes to my mind is get to the bag. Yeah. Get to the bag. And I was like, wait a minute, that's an American saying. So I don't know if anyone knows it. And then I asked you if I knew it, and you knew get to the bag.
Of course I knew it.
So what do you mean by of course? Like, how do you know it? So talk to me about that.
So I have a lot of friends from different countries. Mm-hmm. I used to live in Spain, and I used to live in New York as well.
In New York?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, in 2023. Okay. I was there for a few months with my family, and it was amazing, actually. Yeah. But I think we know the terms because, of the social media. Like, you have TikTok. I used to have one, but, TikTok, Instagram, all of the things just make you more involved with those terms. So, you know more, and we use it. Like, I don't know if that's the term, like that's the thing in case in Poland, like between like people in my generation, but we talk in English. Even though we're Polish, like there are some terms you cannot say that in Polish, There is a concrete term, I have to use it to get the analogy right. So that's, get to the bag.
That's super cool. And I think that's a lesson for just people in the US. Most people who watch this will be in the US, but the goal and hope is that this will spread around Poland, of course, but around the world. But that just comes to show you the power and effect of social media, that you have the ability to influence people that you will never meet. Yeah. And it's something to really think about. What effect will you have on the world? And how will you present yourself to the world? And are you going to bend the world towards goodness, or are you going to bend the world towards evil? And so we have the ability to influence people that we've never met, that we may never meet. And I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool.
I agree.
And part of the reason why I really enjoy talking to you is because I see the fire in your eyes.
I do have one, yes.
Oh my God, I see the fire in your eyes that you get things done.
I do.
You want to succeed. You're hungry for success. And I do think that's very admirable. And so let's have a conversation about that. You mentioned burnout as well, because people who are very ambitious, sometimes when they run out of gas, they say, I'm just going to push the car. Yeah. So let's have a conversation about that.
I did push a car once or twice.
Really?
So, about what we were talking before, because we were talking like there is this mentality of 9 to 5 and even, of 5 to 9, 9 to 5, the whole day structured. Mm-hmm. And you have a lot of tasks to be done each day. Yep. And the thing you said before is, for example, in Christianity, you have one day to take the break, to savor the day. Yeah. And if you don't take it, the world will take it for you. And I fully agree. Mm-hmm. And I agree in life sense, but as well like in work sense. Yeah. Because I did have the time where, for example, I was waking up, I had my private stuff, and then I was like, okay, let's start to work. Mm-hmm. And I was working to the point that I neglected some of my relationships because I was like, I have time for you, but I have like hour and 10 minutes. That's not right. That's not right. For me...
Putting your friendships on a timer.
Of course. Mm-hmm. And that's not right. Like for me, relationships are the most important thing. Yeah. And basically, that's why I'm here, I guess. Yeah. For the people. Mm-hmm. And I neglected that because I wanted to be productive. Mm-hmm. Because probably I was a bit influenced by the things we see on social media. Yeah. We see the algorithm. We see like, okay, I like this thing, so the algorithm will give me, posts like that, exactly like that, to keep me engaged. Yeah. And that's how it works. Mm-hmm. And I learned, maybe because I, get to know people who are not engineers, not in my field, that you can actually breathe for a second. And that's beneficial. Yeah. Like, the cure, I heard that the cure to anxiety is not really relaxing. It is, but the main cure is creativity. You have to have a bit of break for yourself. And like, imagine, not a lot of people can do it actually. Yeah. Especially in my generation. Sit for 10 minutes. Can you sit on 10 minutes with nothing?
With no stimulation, no phone, no iPad,
here,
no
there
TV.
is a stimulation. Whoa. And then you can start having ideas which are purely from your mind. Yeah. And this is incredible because, for example, I heard you were talking about ChatGPT before. Yeah. Yeah, like starting from 2022, I use it every day. Of course. Yeah. Will I stop? I don't know. I'm using it now because I know how to use it in certain ways. Of course, not at all, but for example, when I'm programming or, getting ideas or wants to have something checked quickly, sometimes I use it, of course. Of course. But we cannot overuse it because then where's my creativity, I want to be creative to create stuff.
I like this. And that's actually so beautiful. The cure to anxiety is creativity.
It's new thought for me as well, but I used to like it.
And would you say that tapping into your creativity is in some ways tapping into your childhood? Because many times as children, we start off as creative. We can be a dragon, we could be a princess, we could be a mechanic and a race car driver at the same time. Of course. Our imagination is so wide.
I wanted to be a singer.
You wanted to be a singer?
And I do sing. I'm not a singer, but I do sing.
And as we become adults, we lose that creativity and we become more anxious. And it sounds like part of what we need to do as adults is tap into our inner child. Yeah. Is to tap into that inner belief in ourselves if we want to be more relaxed, be more at peace, and not burn out.
I fully agree. Yeah. And from what I was, having my research, which was not TikTok, because, sometimes I do say it.
Well, TikTok University is a real thing.
I did a research and it was an Instagram post. Like it's some kind of research, of course, but okay. Yeah. So basically, when you start to think about creativity, you start to think about mindfulness as well, like being present, but then doing stuff you used to like in your childhood. Like, I started doing that. I went for like roller skates last summer.
Yeah.
Like I was having a full-time job. I worked crazy hours, and then I just was like, okay, let's do something fun. I went for an ice cream. I went roller skating. I created something.
Yeah.
Like I started writing a book. Like it was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, and like people like these are things which you would not think about doing, like when you have like this mentality, okay, I have to do this, I have this project, I have to pick up this person, do this.
Yeah.
Only when you have this time for yourself, you can start thinking about it.
Yeah.
And it is about our, inner child. It is.
Yeah.
Because we have to heal ourselves, not just by talking about it, maybe journaling. I do journal a lot. But then like by doing the things we used to do, to not lose ourselves in a daily work.
Yeah. So now here's where I want to twist the conversation.
Okay, twist.
Because part of the reason why we have the luxury to be creative is because there's been people that were hyper ambitious and they did not rest. And someone like Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
We are so happy he was the way he was because we have the iPhone because of him. We have this mobile device. We have more technology and access to information on our phones than the president of the United States had in the 1970s.
True.
And we are beneficiaries of people with extreme ambition. And the question is, how do we as ambitious people continue to change the world for the good, like Steve Jobs did, while being creative, while tapping into that inner child? Because I don't want people to think for a second that ambition is a bad thing. Yeah. I'm pro ambition. I'm pro let's go to work. But per our last episode, you got to rest a little bit. But it's not. I don't want to talk about it as an either or. I want to talk about it as yes, we can do both. So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I love the question. Basically, I think we can do those great stuff the people did before us, while implementing like the learnings we are having right now. Because right now we are talking about work-life balance. We are talking that we need to rest as well. We are talking more and more about our mental health, not just physical health. Yeah. And that was maybe not as popular in the past century. And we can do it. We have a lot of... It
wasn't popular 15 years ago.
Of course.
Yeah.
And we can still do it, of course. And we can do it maybe better. Maybe not. We'll see. It depends on the person. But we can maybe do it better because we will have like some kind of solution of how to get even more energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let me rest and then I can grind.
Yeah.
I do sometimes stuff like that. For example, okay, so I have my morning and I'm like, let's do this block, like, I don't know, few hours. I'm the person, I can sit 10 hours and do stuff. But I need to still think, okay, do I have my nutrition? Do I have
That's true.
I have to stretch. I have to do I cannot just be sitting and, doing one thing. I can lock in, but you need to think about not just one aspect of doing something, but you need to think about you as well and your energy.
So let's talk about leveraging technology.
Of course.
Because you mentioned ChatGPT.
Yes.
And we're able to do in 2 minutes what used to take us 2 hours.
Yeah.
Back in the days when I wanted to write a proposal, oh my God, it would take the week. It would take the entire week to write a decent proposal, not even an excellent proposal, a decent proposal. And now it takes about 45 minutes to an hour, you do the prompt engineering. But I do think that is one effective way to say, I'm going to be ambitious and rest, because now you can do more with less time.
Yeah.
Use leveraging technology. So what are your thoughts on that in saying, I'm going to use the technology around me in order to do more in less time? And I'm not going to fill up the extra time with more work. I'm going to fill up the extra time with actually resting.
I love that, because actually technology does allow us to, have more time for ourselves.
Yeah.
I love the thing I already heard like few years ago even, that, we have co-pilot. So it is actually a co-pilot.
Yeah.
It's there with you. It's not leading, but it is there with you. So for example, yes, of course, for example, when was the last time I used ChatGPT? Like 20 minutes ago, 25 minutes ago. Because I was like, okay, here's my assignment, check. If I have some spelling stuff, okay, what would you change, for example? And that kind of things. Yeah. I'm as well a tutor. So I do tutor people from, more like languages side and technical. And we're using ChatGPT. I always say, people, use it. Create, for example, a test for yourself. Test yourself. Ask him to, ask you.
That's good. That's good.
I always use it, of course. And I think this does allow me to have a breath. For example, I write an email and I ask him, okay, check it. Yeah. So I won't have to spend the time, like the 10 minutes of me looking like that to the computer. Yeah. I can have a coffee or something.
Yeah. And so let's end here, because this podcast purpose is to help students graduate. It's called The Road to Graduation and Greatness, right?
We love that.
Actually, it's funny. Professor was spelled wrong in the last episode, and then it was just changed.
We learn.
So you live and you learn, you make mistakes, but you proceed and push forward anyways. And some people, they may not do well in school to start, but that doesn't mean you have to finish weak. You can also finish strong. And when you came up to me after my presentation and you essentially asked a question about how do you know that you're heading on the right path when you have multiple things you're doing at the same time? Question. And I do think, but the thing is, embedded in your question, it made me, what was embedded in your question is you are hungry and you are pursuing the top, and that you will stop at nothing until you get what you want. And so I do think that the fact that you are a student, figuring things out, pursuing what you are passionate about, figuring out what you're passionate about, figuring out your purpose, I was like, I feel like you're already on the right path. And not only will you figure it out, you are going to help others figure it out along the way. And you might help others figure it out before even you do it for yourself.
That's
because
true.
You have that type of power in you. And I want you to give advice now to the listeners, to the college students that's listening who may not have that same fire in their eyes. What would you say to them as they are on the road to graduation and greatness? And I want you to say it to this camera.
Of course. Here. Okay, so 2 things. One thing is concerning our conversation right here today is use the things we have that people did not have like 20 years ago. Because that is a great benefit, and let's use it, people. That's one thing. And second thing is, what can I say? What would you do if the success was guaranteed? That was the thing I heard like 2 days ago, and I'm thinking about it because, like, we were talking like before. What would you do, like, with if you were not paid for that, or you could do it all the time? Yeah, that's a bit similar. What would you do if you like had some kind of confirmation that it is going to be well? Go for that and use the things you need, and use as well the people that, for example, us. We have so many ambitious people who already know many things, and there is experience here. There is drive here. Use it as well. Don't be scared to not talk to people because we are so individualistic these days. No, use it. Let's talk. We don't bite. Yes. Come on. That's my advice, I guess. And I'm very grateful for you coming here. I'm very grateful to meeting you, and thank you for your words.
Absolutely.
This comes to my heart, and oh my God, I'm very grateful. And please listen to this guy, please. The professor is an amazing person, and he knows a lot. So let's, share it and let's use it together.
Julia, you're amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
So thank you for listening to this episode of The Road to Graduation and Greatness. This was a phenomenal conversation. I'm so happy to be here in Poznań, Poland, having these dialogues. As you can see, based on the last conversation, the more you explore, the more you put yourself out there, you will gain a global perspective, and you will get lessons from other people. And that was the first time I ever heard that in my life, that creativity is a cure to anxiety. And I think that's very beautiful. And the more you have conversations with people, the more you'll learn and the more that you will grow as a person. And so I encourage you to continue as a student, continue on the path that you're heading, meet new people, take risks, take challenges. You might make mistakes, you might fail, you might not get knocked down, but you get up every single time.
That's how it's done.
That's how it's done. And so thank you so much. And I will see you next time, and I'll see you across the stage.